Good morning, everyone. And here I am, jam on toast. Fuck me. I have been sleeping on this and hadn't had this in God knows how long. And my God, am I starting to have a newfound appreciation for this stuff. Helps in the living crisis as well. But of course you didn't come here to find out what kind of jam I'm getting myself into. Strawberry. Ha ha! Much better. So, what I want to talk about today is the failed mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, Sadiq Khan pretty much needs no introduction. First Muslim mayor of London, most incompetent and useless mayor of London, and now he's becoming the most hated mayor of London as well. Sorry. Sticky shit, this stuff. I'm going to have to be much more careful with jam. Anyway, he is the most hated mayor of London for a number of reasons. Recently, he has been slandering the ordinary white British person. Basically because if you're a white Londoner, you're not a real Londoner in his book. And while I admit it's mostly his caption team that decided to do this, it doesn't change the fact that responsibility lies solely with him. Because he has been known to be a vile, racist piece of shit who incites hatred and race baiting. Now, though, we've got ULEZ coming out. ULEZ that basically is planning to tax the poor. ULEZ that is essentially making it so that if you have an older car and you try to drive anywhere from like the depths of London all the way up to the M25, you can be charged £12.50 a day. And then you can end up, in some cases, getting a fine through your door. So you might have, I don't know, let's go with one example. Preferably without the alarm telling me to get my arse up. Anyway, you could end up going down to Heathrow Airport because you want you want to go and send a family off on holiday or something. Or you want to come back to Heathrow Airport so you can greet your family as they've come back from holiday. And what will end up happening is you'll be charged £12.50 just to do that. And if you don't pay it, then you get a fine for your fucking door. And goes without saying, this can cause a little bit of upset. And that's putting it nicely. Because what this will then do is it will basically tax you just for wanting to go into London to visit the airport. Now, if they were driving around London for 18 hours, don't recommend this, make sure you get enough sleep. But if they was driving around London with their pollution-driven cars, okay, I could understand that a little bit more. But ULEZ is not going to discriminate regarding this. It is just going to say, oh, you've been in London with your car, you're getting taxed. And what Sadiq Khan is doing with this tax is he is basically taxing the poor under the guise of trying to save the planet regarding pollution. However, people have already been proving that this whole ULEZ thing is a total load of bollocks. Dan Wootton, in particular, in GB News, has actually had an interview. I can't remember the other guy off the top of my head. I know I've just seen the fucking thing, and I probably should remember his name, considering I've literally watched it like 10-15 minutes ago from before I recorded this video. But what I'll do is I'll link the interview in the description below so you can check it out yourself. But the asthma pollution doesn't back up this claim of ULEZ. The pollution statistics in general do not back this up. And what I find particularly insulting more than anything, and chilling, is the fact that even the fucking scientists that usually back this shill up point blank refused contracts and basically bribes from Sadiq Khan when he said, I don't like the way you've worded this, but we'll give you some money and we'll give you some contracts if you reword your report to make it more appealing so that my bullshit can basically be spoon-fed to the British public. And they basically said, no, fuck you, Sadiq Khan. And good on them. Good on them. Sticking by at least some semblance of standards. Because Sadiq Khan is lying to us. Point blank. He's lying to us and has even said that he is not sorry about bringing this shit into London. And they're already trying to spread this nationwide. They are going out of their way to try and spread this across the country. Can you imagine what it would do if people ended up having to pay this tax wherever they were in the country? Almost said world there. But could you imagine having to pay that shit here in Norwich, or over in Leicester, or over in fucking Newcastle, or even in Scotland? Could you imagine the absolute outrage this would cause countrywide? People are already pissed off. Just take a look at what's happening with the ULEZ protests. They do not want this going through at all, and I don't blame them. The only people who suffer on the back of this is the poor. The people that should not be getting taxed, if anything. The people who already have a hard enough job as it is of being able to make ends meet. And then we have dickheads like Sadiq Khan trying to push this, lying to our faces and not apologising for the actions he's done. He is basically acting, in the guy's own words, he's acting like the Sheriff of Nottingham. He better not be surprised if there's some fucking Robin Hoods coming out before long and giving him a real piece of justice, because I do not think that our justice system is going to do it. I think someone is going to end up losing their shit with Sadiq Khan and going after him. And I'm not calling for it. Let me be absolutely clear on that. I am against violence and what have you, and committing crimes for this kind of thing. But I will say, as I've always done in the past, I completely understand why these people would do it. And as I've always said before, and I will say again and cannot emphasize enough, that is not me sympathizing with these people that are committing these crimes. It is me saying I understand why they do it. Speaking of which, there is a video I'll put out of Nigel Farage mentioning that some people actually have gone out of their way to vandalise the cameras in response to this. Which, as he said, and I will say, I do not condone vandalism and all that shit. But I completely understand why they've done it. That'll also be linked in the description below. My God, Sadiq Khan is pissing a whole world of people off. And the way I look at it, anything that Sadiq has happened to him, anything, and as I said, I'm not calling for violence, I'm not calling for crime, let me be clear on that, but anything that happens to Sadiq Khan, he only has himself to blame. The man is so far out of touch with reality, with his people, with a strange concept called facts, and he is so out of touch with science as well. I'm surprised the man is not floating off in space somewhere, and whenever you look up in the sky, you just see this man floating out in space. trying to get back down from Earth. That is how far out of touch this man is. And I will go as far as saying he is a retard of the highest level. The highest level. And I will never apologise for that. Ever. The man needs impeachment. And he needs to be removed from office. That, I think, is the only way he will be able to claw back some of his credibility, is to just resign. The man is not fit for purpose. I wouldn't trust this guy running a bath, let alone for Mayor of London. He has pissed so many people off with his hatred, race baiting, his ridiculous policies like ULEZ, and he is now basically causing anarchy in this country because people don't want to pay a tax that they know is meant to line his pockets. They do not want to pay $12.50 a day just because they decide to take a drive in one of their older, non-polluting vehicles. Nobody wants to do that. A better way to have done this, to solve this whole, or try and solve this pollution issue, give them grants to scrap their vehicles. I don't know, £5,000, £6,000 to basically get rid of their old diesel or unleaded, or whatever the fucking fuel thing's called. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But to basically get rid of their old polluting vehicles. Give them a grant. And then that way they can use that money, alongside some more, of course, to then get a non-polluting car. That would be a much more sensible approach, rather than punishing people just because they have a older vehicle. Like, that is literally like being older than your siblings in a family, and then your mother and father just goes, well, because you're older than your brother or sister, we're going to charge you $12.50 a day because you're older. Like, does that make any fucking sense? To me, it doesn't. And sorry if I cannot get into the head of Sadiq Khan and see his amazing levels of intelligence, but this does not make any sense to me. And what is sad is there are going to be people who fall for his bullshit. That's what hurts more than anything. The fact that I know there's going to be some poor sap that can't think for himself, that is going to believe every bit of bollocks that Isnt Sadiq Khan is going to feed them. That's what hurts me more than anything. He is destroying lives and inciting hatred across the country with his attitude and his policies. Like, that's what he is. He is a racist piece of shit. And I know why he's not facing calls to resign. Do you want me to tell you? It's because he's a Muslim. And I know that for a fact, that he is not facing these calls because of the fact that he is diverse. Because I fucking guarantee you, that if anyone else was in that position of power, forget about even a white person being in power, if it was anyone else in power in the Mayor of London's position, I guarantee you, if they said anything like what that cunt has said, they'd be facing daily, hourly, maybe even minutely calls to resign for racism, inciting hatred, and just being an incompetent fucking mayor. I guarantee that. Even more so if the person who was running in office was white. But the mainstream media won't tell you this. Because, say it with me, folks, it doesn't suit the narrative. Sadiq Khan, my personal message to you is this. You are an incompetent, retarded scumbag who has no business being in office. You stir up division and hatred. You stir up controversy, almost on the same levels as what Trump used to. You consistently piss people off with your insanely bad practices, and you get away with so much because of the colour of your skin and your beliefs. And what I find deliciously ironic as well, because he's all for virtue signalling gay, bi, trans and all that, and let me be clear, I'm not against gay, bi and trans. Let me be absolutely clear on that. What I am against is people like Sadiq Khan using this to take a subtle dig at white people. But what I find ironic in all this is his Islamic beliefs. The extremist side of Islam fundamentally believes that all gay people should be stoned to death or thrown off buildings. How do you think your friends are going to take that? Please send your answer on a postcard, Sadiq Khan, and I'll be sure to charge you $12.50 for the privilege. Just like you're charging people $12.50 for the privilege of driving their cars, which they spent hard-earned money on, to be able to get around faster. And you tell me how that feels. I guarantee you won't send a postcard. You know why? Because you won't want to pay the $12.50. Think of those other people who don't want to pay the £12.50 tax. Because this is basically a scam. I'll go ahead and say it. This ULEZ thing is a complete, unequivocal fucking scam. And we need to call it out for what it is. And the fact that people have already gone out of their way to literally go up and dismantle and destroy and steal surveillance cameras, and the amount of absolute outrage from the ordinary British public at this bullshit. Like, if I saw this and I was the Mayor of London, I saw how pissed off people were at this, the last thing I'd be doing is issuing a non-apology. No chance. I would want to look back, go back to the drawing board and think, maybe I'm doing something wrong here. If it's only a few people, you could probably say, who cares about them? But the fact you're pissing off so many people, that, to me, means you need to go back to the drawing board and have a serious think about this policy of yours. But you won't, because you're an idiot. You're a retard. You're a scumbag. You're a race-baiting moron. And I suspect Sadiq Khan will probably go to Twitter and say, this boy, this fat, obese boy, he made a mean video about me. Actually, that would be fucking amazing if it did. Like, do you know how much that would make my day? Knowing that I triggered your sorry, scrawny little ass. And as said before in many of my videos, and I will say here gladly once again, I'm not roasting you over a Spitfire with my bacon and pork sandwich sitting here in my hand. Or a jam sandwich for that matter. Anyway, I'm not sitting here roasting you because you're a Muslim. I'm sitting here roasting you because you're a crap fucking mayor. That is why I say the things I do about you, Sadiq Khan, because you are not fit for purpose. You're not fit for purpose. You piss the British people off. You come up with ridiculous policies that are basically nothing more than a scam to line the rich with more money and make the poor people poorer. And I don't think you quite understand how being a mayor of London works. You are by far the worst mayor of London we will ever have. And I might even go as far as saying in all time, including the next, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 years, if we live that long. I'd probably go that far. Because you aren't fit for office. You aren't fit to run a bath, my guy. And you can probably sit here and be like, oh, that's just one man's opinion. But as I said before, what do you think the people who pay your taxes, who pay to keep you in office, what do you think they feel when they learn that you're putting them through this bullshit? Do you think they're happy? I don't. In fact, I'd probably go as far as saying they're probably way more pissed off than I am. Like, my anger towards you is probably very, very tame compared to what some of these other people feel for you. And you should be thankful there hasn't been a violent revolution. But you're going down that route. You are 100% going down that route. You are pushing people to the absolute limit with your bullshit. And it won't be long before someone takes a glass, like whether it's this or whether it's a fucking bottle in the hand, and they're going to fucking throw this at you. And I'm not going to advocate for it. I would condemn it. But I would completely understand why they do it, because they're pissed off with scum like you constantly belittling us. And constantly treating us like shit. Like doormats. So if I were you, Sadiq Khan, I'd take a long hard look in the mirror and realise the kind of shit you're doing and the serious damage you are causing with public relations. Because trust me, it's not going to be much longer before these people decide they've finally had enough and they rebel and they go full-blown anarchy on your ass. What will you do? Bring the army in? Ha! Good luck with that. Do you really think the army is going to listen to a shriveled shill of a man like you? And even if they did, way back a couple of years ago, I recall, I believe the army even said themselves that if there was a revolution, they would be on the people's side, not your side. They have come out and categorically said, if there was a revolution to take over this country, they would side with the people, not the politicians. Something to sleep on. So, if I were you, Sadiq Khan, I'd do everyone a big fucking favour and resign. You are not fit for purpose. You're not even fit to run my bath or even shine my shoes. You're a man who has completely failed in his duty for the last 4 or 5 years, if not longer. And I don't think you'll ever improve. Oh, I want you to prove me wrong, but I know you won't. You won't improve. You're more interested in this. Well, when the anarchy hits the streets, all because you don't want to scrap your ULEZ policy, all because your practices are maligned, malicious and corrupt, you will only have yourself to blame. as blood fills the streets, buildings are set ablaze, and the country descends into total, utter darkness. My name is Dabima, also known as Abath Rex, and I am, as always, very, very bad news for people like Sadiq Khan, who think it's alright to tax ordinary British people who just want to drive their vehicles. £12.50 a day. I can think of many different uses for that £12.50. You can get yourself a few days' groceries. You can buy yourself some toiletries or some washing up liquid, washing stuff here as well, like theirs. I know it's flipped because fuck my phone and everything. But my point is, you can spend that £12.50 on something so much better than lining this fucker's pockets. Like, you can do so much better. This is the guy's policies. And a man who incites hatred against white British people because they're not real Londoners. Which, speaking of, I will also link something about that in the description below as well. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and of course, most importantly, fuck the government.